Hello.
Bessie, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I know. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, because we had the session,
Mhm.
and then I was like, okay, and then I thought it was gonna be a Zoom in like a week or so, and then I was like,
Right.
I haven't heard from him.
Right.
And then I got your email, so I assumed that you were just gonna schedule with Maria.
Yeah, I know. So I saw you somewhere in August, and then I emailed you like a week or so later, and I just noticed that you had emailed me back, and I hadn't seen your email. And so then I finally was able to get a hold of Maria. I was out of town last week. I was visiting my parents in Indiana, so that kind of slowed it down another week. So I do apologize.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, we've been working with Ben and Bessie though. So.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
How's the walking and stuff going?
You know, it's going really well. I actually have even a couple of times forgotten to charge the e-collars. And so I had them on their prong collars, and Bessie's doing fantastic with it. Ben, without the e-collar, likes to be a little more challenging, and he'll be like, "Why, she's not nicking me, so I'm going to see if I can walk in front of her and stuff." And I try and give him a nice, strong correction. But for the most part, he's been really, they've been doing great with it. Bessie does the auto sit when we stop. I'm still a little awkward with the turns. Yeah. Every once in a while, I kind of become, I think I try to turn too sharp, like I try to emphasize the turn too much, and I don't allow it to be a little more natural. So like Will was helping me with just trying to make that a natural thing.
Sure. I mean, it takes practice, and then, because walking two dogs is more difficult than one, of course.
Yeah.
So I would get like, master it with one and then the other, because you do, is it one on each side, or right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Bessie's on my right, Ben's on the left.
Yeah, so if there's a side that troubles you more, I'd focus with just the one dog and really isolate it.
Yes.
And then combine them again. And then it just drill it, because on an actual walk, you just walk, like you don't turn as much.
No, you don't.
Yeah. So by just drilling it out, it helps you kind of build up that muscle memory for faster. So.
Right, for sure.
So.
Yes.
Anything else before we get started? Anything that of concern or?
I think they've been doing really well. The thing that the front door has been a little bit of an issue for us. If I forget to bring Bessie with me, and I try and go grab some like takeout, right? Then she'll get a little upset because I have the gate shut and she can't get out there. So we've had a couple of times where I've done that, and she'll get a little upset with someone next to her, but thankfully not to a degree of emergency or anything.
Okay, so it's like redirecting?
A little bit, yeah. She's starting to redirect when she can't get to me.
Okay, and then Bessie was the smaller, not Ben, right?
Yes, okay. Ben's the big fluffy golden doodle. Yeah. Bessie's the little white something. I don't know what she is. Bessie, what are you?
All right. Okay. What would you like to focus on today?
So I have my list in front of you. I was wondering if there was some way you could talk me through on how to do break.
Oh, we covered break though, right?
I don't think we did.
Okay.
I don't think
so break is the release command.
Right.
Have you utilized break at all?
No, because I don't really know how.
Okay.
I've tried to say break, and they just look at me like, huh?
Okay. So then, to make it more clear, take one dog. I do Ben because I think Ben would be easier and give you a very clear visual of like, oh, okay, that's how it works.
Yes.
Pop Ben into a heel. Put the collar on and everything. Walk for a bit, right? And let's say you walk from your home to like a nearby grass lot.
Yes.
Before you get to the grass lot, like when you're just there, you would slow down to a stop. Ben should auto sit.
Right.
And then you would cue the word break, let the leash go slack, and then walk with Ben towards the grass lot. So you're right there. Right?
Okay.
So it's kind of like at Independence Park. Remember we would work on that sidewalk and then there was all the grass next to us?
Yeah.
So you could have just stopped and then Ben would auto sit and then you would say break and you would just lead him onto the grass.
Okay.
So it's easier to teach if, one, there's a very clear change in surface from concrete to grass.
Oh, I
Helps.
see. Okay.
Okay. Another one would be like going through a threshold. So like let's say I open the back door and I don't want the dogs to go through, right? So they're waiting, and then I say break, and break means now you can walk through the
Okay.
back door.
Oh, that one. I think that would really help me figure out how to show them that.
Yeah. So
Okay.
break simply means your job is done.
Right.
So right now the only thing that we've taught them formally is heel.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't say break if well the door is the back door, the front door would be a exception, but you technically wouldn't say break if they're not under command.
Okay.
Right. So because heel means walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop, and if you don't, I'm going to remote you. Right.
Right.
There's consequence,
Right.
and then break means okay, you don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. You're off the clock, and I'm not going to remote you.
Okay. Gotcha.
Now you can still correct them for stuff like let's say Ben were to start barking at a dog and you want him to not bark at them, you would just correct them. But it's the kind of clocking them in and clocking them out. Heel clocks them into work, break clocks them out of work.
Gotcha. Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, you did talk to me about all of that. I just once I started trying to go and doing, I was like, I don't know what to do.
Sure. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's very simple.
Okay.
So I would start with Ben first because I think he'd give you a very clear visual of like how it works, and then do Bessie because then since Bessie is more of the emotionally weaker dog, she may be more cautious and not like give you a very exaggerated "oh, I'm free."
Right.
And if she doesn't, it's okay. Like then I just meander and walk with her on the grass. And she might glue to you. I just ignore her. You've already cued the word. Whether or not she does it, technically doesn't matter because you've said break, and break means you can do what you want.
Okay, so that helps. It's kind of, I have to set the stage to make it a clear distinction that we're no longer just kind of walking straight. I can walk a little bit more, just kind of hanging out in the grass and just kind of encourage that more. Just, okay, you go sniff, you do your doggy thing here, and I'm just hanging out.
Yeah.
Okay, that helps.
Break technically means up to like you're completely free.
Right.
If that's what you wanted, but if you kept them on the short leash, then yeah, that's correct. It's like now we're just going to kind of mosey along, and you don't have to worry about being right on my hip.
Okay, that helps.
Yep.
Yeah, because when I was on my walk yesterday with them, Will gave me a phone call, and I couldn't really like keep them in next to me, have my phone here,
Sure.
and so that's one of those moments where I was like, I really need to know how to do break.
Yeah, it's simple.
So, okay.
It's just break and they're off the clock. So you could have even said break and just held the leashes and just like been on the phone, because there is no do this. It's just okay. Now we're done.
Yes, I think I was overthinking it. I was making it much harder than it actually is.
No worries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What else?
No, that's a help. That's nice to distinguish, though.
Okay. What else do we have on that list?
So the thing that would really help is like the backyard barking with the neighbor dogs. Ben and Bessie, they're doing great with that. When they're on the e-collar, they don't bark. They'll go over by the fence and sniff, but they're not barking, right? It's the little guys that like to egg everybody on now because they're not on the e-collars, right? So Ren, I don't know where he went. He's pretty reactive towards other dogs anymore, and so he just barks and he goes ballistic and he's just a loon. And then, I mean, my dachshund's dachshund, and so she barks literally at nothing. But I didn't know if there's any way without the e-collars that I can help get them away from that, other than bribery, because right now I just use treats.
So, what you can use is what's called a bonker.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the bonker?
You talked to me about that last time, and we've been doing that. That I talked to you about when we have bone time at night. Abby, the dachshund, likes to sit on the sofa and bark at Bessie, who's in her crate. And she's, being the big bad dachshund and saying, get away from my bone. And so we've been taking a towel and rolling it up and then bogging her on the head with it. She doesn't like it.
Yeah, no, that's the point of it.
Yeah.
So what I suggest is that you make... Did I send you the videos, by the way?
I don't know.
I usually title them like Bonker videos, or if you just search Bonker in your email, it should pop up.
Okay. Let's see. I'm hoping that nothing you send me goes into my spam for some reason.
Sometimes it does because of it's links.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not in my inbox anywhere, but let me go into. No, I don't see it.
Okay, I made a note here
That's okay.
to send it to you.
Sure. That's totally okay. Yeah.
So the Bonker videos will help a lot.
Okay.
What I suggest is you make a number of them, like 3 to 5.
Right.
Okay, and if there's for smaller dogs, you can use little hand towels or whatever, or you can use regular towels. It's just a towel.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go to that situation where she's barking at Bessie or whatever. And when do you bonker?
With Abby, when she starts barking, and then I bonk her on the head pretty hard.
Okay. And then what does she do afterwards?
She looks at me like, "How dare you?"
And then what happens after that?
Sometimes she calms down, but other times she just returns to what she was doing.
And then what do you do?
I hit her again.
And then and just walk me through that process and what happens.
Yeah. No, you're fine. Yeah, I just keep trying to, and I try and show her that when she barks, that it's going to result in me bonking her on the head.
Yep.
Right? And she does. After a few times, she'll stop. Right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
couple of things here, and the videos will help clear this up. What may be, and you may be very well doing it firmly, but for a dog, the size doesn't matter. So like my Chihuahua, when he was 8 years old, not 8, when he's 8 pounds. He's 8 years old, but he's 8 pounds. When he was a pup, when he was young, when I first got him, he was about a year old, and he was a feral dog. He spent the first year of his life out in like farmland and stuff outside. Was not potty trained, was not crate trained. So when I got him, he broke out the kennel and he tore up the carpet. And then he was very leash reactive. Okay, and at that time, this was before I started doing e-collar. I had him on a prong collar, and when I would correct him, and I would correct him so firmly that he would spin.
I remember you telling me that story.
And then it would take 3 times before he would stop. Right?
Okay.
And then people were like, "What the hell are you doing to your dog?" I'm like, "Well, it's not like it's phasing him because he keeps doing it, right?"
That's true.
So, and I was doing very firm leash corrections, right? So, but most of the time, what seems firm for the owner is not firm for the dog.
Right.
Okay. So if I corrected Abby and she continued barking, right? You were correct. You would correct again, and you keep repeating. But if I see it taking 5 to 6 corrections, or really more than 3, I start to wonder: 1, are the corrections too soft? Or 2, is the dog just a really tough dog? Okay, and the only way to know that is to like get a visual and because that's how I can assess like how intense the bonk was.
Sure.
But in the video that I'm going to send you, in one of them. So there's 3 of them: how to make one, how to use one, and 1 is a trainer actively using one.
Okay.
And when you see him use it, he uses it with considerable force. Okay, like it's whack. Right. And the dog like tucks away and is like, "Holy shit, what is that?" It's like really bothered by it. And but by doing that, he is getting the point across right off the bat. And like for the rest of the class, I think he maybe bonks the dog twice in the video. But other than that, the dog shifts dramatically. Okay, because of such a forceful correction. Now, we do correct according to the behavior, like what's appropriate to it. But what's appropriate to it for a human is different for the dog.
Right.
Okay, because dogs bite each other.
Right.
So because she's you said dachshund, right? Yeah. So she's a smaller dog. And then how old is she?
She's 5.
She's 5. Okay, so she's not too bad. So when I get smaller dogs or older dogs, people have a hard time correcting them because they're small or older or both, right? And I tell them, well, other dogs don't care. They will just bite them. Yeah. They don't care like, oh, you're an older dog, so I'm not going to hurt you, whatever. They just go, all right, like you cross the line, I'm going to bite you now. Right? So the size, age, none of that stuff matters. Sex doesn't matter. Okay?
Right.
So when you correct her, I would start being more aware of the intensity.
Okay.
So if you correct her and she stops on the first bonk, I
Right.
assess two things. How early on did I catch it, or how intense was she? Right? Because if
Okay.
you catch it right when she's about to do it, you can get away with less.
Right.
Because she's not, she's not full blown or whatever. But if
Mm-hmm.
she's been doing it for a couple of minutes and then you go in there to try to stop her, well, since she's been doing it for a couple of minutes, it's going to take more to get her to cut it out.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing would be the intensity, right? Maybe you just had really good intensity on that particular correction, and then on others, it's maybe because you tried to rush it, or maybe she moved or something. The intensity isn't there. You're trying to assess why was this not effective. Okay.
Okay.
And then if you find no, every time I correct her, it's very, very firm, but it always takes 4 corrections, then it's a couple of things. One, we try to escalate the aversion, which would either be prong or e-collar, but we're trying to do
Okay.
it sans prong or e-collar, okay?
Okay.
Or I'm just patient, and then I do the 4 bonks,
Okay.
right? Or you can make it more intense by doing multiple within one correction. So,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So bonk bonk.
Yeah. So for me growing up, when I start to get around be 12, 13-ish, spanking wasn't really effective anymore. Because it used to be spank, spank, and I was done.
Right.
So then to get, to make it meaningful, it was I keep spanking you until I get a reaction.
Okay.
So for some of my clients, they'll bonk their dog or puppy, and then the puppy will bite at the bonker playfully,
Right.
or they'll grab it and run away with it, thinking it's a game. And I'll tell the owner, then I keep bonking them until it's not a game. So until they're scooting or scattering, they're going, holy crap, okay, I get it, I don't want to do this anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So
Right.
I'm not, the reason why we would correct until she scatters is because what you're doing so far hasn't worked.
Yeah.
Because what we're trying to achieve is her not doing that anymore.
Right.
I don't want you to just stop it. I want you to stop it and it not happen again. Or
Yes.
if it happens again, it's more spaced out. She does that once every 6 months or something, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to once every week or whatever the frequency is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and what tells me what's effective is the dog.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you work on your intensity. I send you the video. You work on your intensity. Oh wow, I'm not bonking her as firm as I thought it was.
Right.
And then you address that, and then you do one very firm bonk, and she yelps and she runs off. You don't feel bad, okay?
Right.
Because dogs bite each other and they yelp all the time.
Right.
But that's the resonating correction there.
Okay.
That she's going, crap, that sucked. I'm out of here. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I think you're right. I don't think our intensity is as strong as we think it is.
Yeah, it typically isn't, because and it's completely normal and it's completely natural. One, because now it's physical. Now it's you to dog, not press a button.
That's true.
Right? Is that psychological hump of I'm hitting my animal.
That's what I kind of feel right now thinking about it. I'm like, but I don't want to hurt her. I don't want to hit her,
Right.
So it is nice having that third party with the transponder, doing the thing for me.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So the pro and con of e-collar is it removes any kind of physical between the human and the dog. There's a disconnect. The con is because there is no connection, the dog respects the tool. Right?
Yeah.
With the bonker, the pro is now there's, hey, this is coming from me.
Right.
The con is, well, now it's the person having to do it themselves.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's all normal stuff. So that's why I always, remind people dogs bite each other.
Right.
And you got to look at your intention. So when my mom spanked me, my mom never spanked me for no reason. I always did something that in response garnered a spanking.
Right.
Okay. But there are families out there, unfortunately, where kids are being, it's not out of discipline; it's out of malice and the intent to do harm. Right.
And the word you're saying is intent, and that's the whole point, right?
Correct. Is the intention, so if Abby was perfectly fine not barking and all that stuff, there would be nothing happening.
Right.
It would be everybody would be in harmony and we're good.
Yeah.
And the whole like with people being able to talk through things and stuff like that. Dogs don't have that.
No.
Like there's this whole like I don't know why it's so how it gained so much momentum with like you should like teach your dog and your dog should learn to do these things and stuff like that without any kind of physical force or fear. I'm like, but that's not how it works. If those methods did work, I wouldn't have a job.
Actually, a very good point. I wouldn't have had to come to you, would I?
Yeah, like if treats and positivity fixed everything for dogs, there would be no dog trainers because everybody could just do it themselves, right? Because a lot of people teach their dog to sit and lay down and paw with treats, no problem, right? But they still suffer from like other or struggle with other behavioral issues because that stuff doesn't work.
No, because when Bessie's getting mad at one of the other dogs, if I offer her a treat, she's not going to take the treat.
Yeah,
she's not going to listen to me in that moment.
I mean, it's like a human, right? If you're in a really bad mood,
yes,
right? Like, and then someone tries to sweet talk you, like I'm not in the mood for that right now.
No,
like I'm pissed, right?
Yes.
Or if like if you're in a burning building, you're not trying to think about grabbing a brownie. Like you're like I'm gonna get the hell out of this burning building.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Because of stress levels. The same thing for dogs. So I don't understand why these people are still pushing when your dog is under stress, give them treats to make them feel better, but they won't take it because they're too stressed out. Like it doesn't,
Because humans, I think, because we're so emphasizing people are going to think I'm abusing my dog.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Because we treat them like they're our children, right? And they are, but we also have to understand that they're not human, so how we talk to them can't be like they're a human.
Well, the other thing is that, and it's the same, so in the dog training world, there's a lot of drama between trainers like myself and trainers that do positive only.
Yes,
okay?
Yes.
There's this constant just back and forth, right?
Oh, I can imagine.
And the dog, in the children raising world, it's same. Now like, you can't spank your kids or something.
No, or you're viewed as very bad parents.
Yeah, but I was spanked, and I'm like, I'm appreciative of it. Like, it's why I'm so disciplined.
Right.
Right. And it's people are trying to get away from physicality because they think that we're evolved and stuff, but people do shit all the time.
We're not very evolved.
That's why I saw a video. It went viral. I'm not sure. Maybe you've come across it, but it's about like maybe a teenage boy, maybe 12, 13.
Okay.
And he's harassing he's at this place. He's just harassing all these people. Okay, at the outside of some kind of store or something, calling them names. Just swearing at them. I think he's even smacking, hitting some people. And then this guy comes up and he's just minding his business, or I can't remember if he confronts the kid and tells him hey, you need to cut it out or something. But he's not confrontational, from what I remember. And the kid ends up being physical with him. And the guy ends up just grabbing him by the throat and just throwing him. And the kid falls down and starts crying. Right? And then the guy just well, don't do this, right?
Right.
And walks away.
Right.
But that kid got to that point because nobody ever disciplined him.
That's true.
That's how that happened.
Yeah.
He didn't one day decide, discipline keeps everything in check.
I agree.
A lot of my former clients are teachers, and a lot of them have left the profession. They didn't care about the pay, but what they didn't like was that because parents aren't disciplining their kids, is that the kids are coming to school, and the school's spending more time disciplining the kids and not educating them, right? And it's a two-part process. Parents discipline kids so that kids go to school and can learn.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
well, and then they also don't continue to push boundaries and think they can get away with whatever they want to get away with.
Right. So, a lot of my clients that were teachers are going, I'm an ex-teacher. I retired or I left because, people aren't disciplining their kids anymore. And they're like, it wasn't even the pay, which is another thing, but it was the pay plus these kids are so bad.
Yes.
But
you have to. Are you willing to work for the amount of money you're making? Are the problems in that job offsetting how much you're making?
Right.
If the kids came in and you felt like you could do your job and it was enjoyable, yeah, you had bad days, but you still enjoyed the process. Right. Then that's great. You'll stay with it. But if you're going to work every day dreading it because these kids can't behave themselves, then I wouldn't want to either.
Yes, and it's the same thing for dogs.
Yeah.
But for dogs, you're doing both. You're doing both the behavior part of it, and you're doing the education, which would be the obedience part of it.
Right.
Okay. But whenever I work with my puppy clients, or just clients in general, I always emphasize behavior, because that's actually what people are trying to address, and that's actually what's going to make their lives better.
Right.
Is just addressing the behavior. Okay. So the most important thing to remember is intent. Okay. You don't want to hurt your dog. I know you don't want to hurt your dog. That's actually good.
Yes.
Right? Because you don't want to do it, but you do it because you love them and you want to be able to keep your dogs.
Yes.
Right? And also be happy. Like I get so many requests for like dog reactivity that they're like, the owner is struggling with anxiety because they don't know when their dog's going to blow up, or they don't know if their dog's going to bite somebody. Like everything is unpredictable because they have no control. I had a client that used to go up 20-something flights of stairs, go down and up 3 times a day because she didn't want to go down the elevator because her dog was so bad, reactivity-wise.
Wow.
So I'm like, your dog should not make your life hell.
Right. No, you shouldn't.
And that's why discipline is necessary.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's going to take time. Nobody just turns around and just does it. Even me, myself, when I first started using physicality, it was a barrier. But I used to watch a lot of Cesar Millan.
Right.
And I'm like, this guy, like, I would watch him, and I'm like, he's always neutral. I can see the intensity, and it's always appropriate to the dog, And then, like, there's an episode where, like, he taps the dog with the back of his heel, and then people are like, he kicked the dog. I'm like, no, he didn't. Like, like, again, dogs bite each other. Like, it's just, no, you're not going to make everybody happy, but at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is that you're happy. You and your family. That's all that matters.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So, when you correct them, just keep that in mind.
Okay.
And it's most likely the intensity is not there.
Okay.
It's almost always the issue with the bonker is because it is so, and you're using an object, which kind of makes things kind of weird for people. But I just tell them it's a rolled up towel. Dog's not going to die.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
If you get a yip or a yelp, you don't console them. You don't say sorry. If they run off, you don't chase them to console them. You let them process it. Because that's what's going to deter it from happening again. Okay? So, the behaviors that we want to stop, I think you had a list of them, was it?
Yeah.
Let's go through that list just real quick of the behaviors you want to stop.
Yeah, let me bring that up again. Here we go. The break, how to do that. Bessie in her crate, she can still be a little bit of a problem when I come home. And I kind of just put in there that right now she's in the crate with Ren and Stimpy because she's worse when we put her in a crate by herself. And I had to take Ren and Stimpy to get shots the other day, and Will said she was just barking the entire time.
Okay.
And I didn't put the e-collar on her that day and give Will the transponder. So I know that would probably help, but it's just sometimes I have to, we leave in a hurry, or I don't know. But we probably just need to put an e-collar on her, I'm guessing. But
that's one approach.
Yeah.
Okay. Is somebody howling in the back?
Yes, it's Oliver. It's my Chihuahua. It's driving me crazy.
Okay. So like that you can bonk, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I just didn't want to get up.
No, you're fine. But I'm just letting you know.
Have I introduced you to Oliver?
I think he made an appearance. I feel like somebody was there during the consultation and he picked him up or something.
He's a tiny Chihuahua, and he's a handful.
As Chihuahuas are.
Yes.
So with the kennel, yes, the e-collar would be an approach.
Okay.
Does she go in the kennel willingly, or does she resist at all?
She will very slowly walk into the crate. There's a lot of encouragement on our part. We go, come on, let's go in. And she will. And she goes in there, and she settles when she goes into the crate. She's fine. It's usually when I come home that she's just barking up a storm, right? Coming home tends to be very stressful because I have her and then Oliver, the one crying right now, and the dachshund, who bark and bark and bark at me until I get them outside and they're calmer.
Gotcha.
So that has a lot to do with it.
Gotcha. When you let Bessie out of the kennel, does she just force her way out, or does she wait?
She used to. But I make her sit and wait, and I release her before she can go out.
Okay. Does she look like, when you do that, is she like shaking and contained? Like, is she like...
Yeah, she's usually, there's some shaking involved. Her mouth is open, tongue kind of hanging out. Sometimes if she's super anxious, she just kind of does with one of those like very quiet, high-pitched kind of cries in the back of her throat,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So
So one thing I would do is when you come home, what's most likely causing all that stuff is anxiety,
right.
and or overstimulation, knowing that you're home, and the anticipation of that she's going to be let out.
Oh,
Okay?
that makes sense.
Because, typically you come home, you let your dog out, you take him out the potty, right?
Yes.
It creates the, like, let me out, because I've been in here for like 2 hours or over 8 hours, whatever it is. So my dogs, back when they were kenneled, like I'd come home and they'd sit in their kennel, they'd be completely calm.
They would be calm?
Yes. And how I created that was by removing the meaning of me coming home and the opening of the crate door.
Oh, okay.
So the way I approach it is, one, I don't always, as soon as I get home, or I didn't always, as soon as I got home, let my dogs out.
Okay.
Okay, because then that creates a pattern of I come home, you get out, you go out in a minute, right? So you create that anticipation.
Yeah.
But if I put it on you'll go out when I let you out, and that might be 10 minutes after I come home, it might be right after I come home, it might be 30 minutes after I come home. I'm removing any kind of pattern of them being released from the kennel.
Okay.
That's one way
Gotcha.
about it. However, in your case, because you'll probably have to do a blend, your case is there already is an anticipation built in.
Right.
Okay? Is when you go to open the kennel, what I would do is experiment with what does Bessie do if I don't tell her to sit and stay. Okay?
Okay.
Like if I just go to the kennel and open it, what does she just do? Okay? With no direction. Most of the time, the dog or puppy will just forge out.
Yeah, she just barges out and she'll run into the mudroom to go to the back door.
Yeah. So what I do is I go to slowly open the gate, right? And when Bessie tries to forge through that crack, I use the gate and I close it very sharply. Pop.
Oh.
Okay? To correct her.
Okay.
So and this is sans any kind of training equipment. Okay?
Right.
And I do this from the get-go with dogs. Because it just prevents me a lot, prevents tons of problems, right?
Okay.
Because so Bessie is not meant to be crated. Okay? It creates, yes, dogs are denning animals, right? In the wild, they would be, find a cave or something, but they have free access, to come and go. They're not meant to be locked up in a cage all day. But it's necessary for, living in a home and stuff like that. So, imagine if someone took you and locked you in a room with no windows.
Right.
How would you feel?
Not so good.
Yeah, and you'd probably want to escape, and you'd be panicking, you'd be under stress, and if that door opened, you'd probably try to escape, right? So that's kind of like the dog. Mm-hmm. So then, and it sounds bad, but we're not dealing with the human here, we're dealing with the dog, I'm teaching them that coming out of that kennel is not a right, it's a privilege.
Yeah, okay.
So then when I go to open it, because I need something to correct them, right, and dogs are physical, is I don't say sit or stay because it does nothing for the impulsiveness.
Right.
You need her to try to be impulsive so that you can correct her, and she goes, oh, crap.
Okay.
That didn't work.
Yes.
Okay? And what happens is, now that you correct her, and she goes, holy crap, what was that, right? And she goes back in the kennel, and I slowly go to open it. Maybe she tries again, and I pop her again with the kennel gate, and I close it, and she backs off and sits and waits in the back of the kennel by herself.
Right.
Okay, no words. And I open it, and she doesn't do anything.
Right.
Okay, because she's going, okay, well, I guess I can't just barge through here anymore.
Right.
It's no longer right. It's a privilege now.
Okay.
So it removes the meaning of opening the door.
Okay.
because there's no guarantee I'm going to let her out anyways. And I could close the gate and walk away and come back 10 minutes later, an hour later, 30 minutes later, go to open it. Maybe she tries to get up and sneak through, pop her again. She go back in the kennel like, okay, well, I guess I can't leave the kennel until Jessie says, okay, now you're free. Okay. So it's a couple of things working at once. The most important part of this and process is always correcting things. Okay. Applying an aversive to stop a behavior.
Right.
So in the case of the kennel, and there's some trainers that'll bonk the kennel. It can work, and you can try it, but most likely if she's too intense, it's not going to matter.
Yeah.
Okay? She needs something that's going to be touching her. So it's either the e-collar or it's the kennel gate. Okay?
Right.
Now, if I did this with the e-collar, right, I'd pop her with the e-collar on, leave, go to the grocery store for a couple hours or whatever, and come back home with my remote ready. And then when I walk in, if she's throwing a fit, I leave her isolated, and I correct her with the collar until she stops, right? And then I go about my business, unload the groceries and stuff, and then I go to the room to let her out. And then when I go to open it, maybe she gets all revved up again, right?
Right.
And then I go to slowly open it, and she goes to the gate, and then I use the collar to back her away from the gate.
Okay.
So instead of doing the pop with the kennel gate, you're doing the remote to get them to back off.
She will.
Yeah.
If we use it, she will. She'll go sit in the back of the crate.
Right. And when we do this, we do no words. I don't say anything. I don't say good, none of that stuff. Okay?
Right.
Because let's say she did that and you're like, oh my God, that's such a good girl, Bessie, good girl.
Right.
You're bringing excitement back into the picture, and excitement is part of the problem.
Oh.
Because she's already stimulated.
Yeah.
That's why when I come home, I ignore my dogs. Okay? I've never made a fuss about coming home. I've never made a fuss about leaving. Okay? So that's a big part of it. So it's just when I come home, I expect you to be quiet in your kennel. When I approach your gate, your kennel to let you out, I expect you to be calm. And you're going to get a little bit of excitement, right? Yeah. But I don't want the over-the-top excitement. Like my pit, she would shake her tail and she'd wiggle, right? But then I would open it, and if I walked away, she wouldn't do anything. She would just wait in there.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other part of it, is if I open the gate and leave and come back 30 minutes later, I expect Bessie to still be in there because I never released her, right? So when you have that level of discipline, and it's easy to achieve, the process is easy, it just takes time and corrections.
Okay.
Because she's having to unlearn a pattern. And the pattern is when mom comes home or dad comes home, whatever, I freak out in the kennel,
Until,
Yeah, and then I sit down and I wait a little bit, and then they say, okay, you can come out, and then I run to the back door, right? There's a lot of intensity there. So there's no right or wrong approach here. I would work with what you have within the moment. So I like the kennel version because again, it's personal. It's me and the dog, and it's me, the dog, and the kennel because the kennel is actually doing the correction, right? But you have to have time it correctly. So you're timing it so that when her head's going through, right here is where I try to close the gate to get them right by the behind the jaw.
Okay.
Because once the shoulder is past the opening, they're gonna go right through. Okay. If that happens, I just grab their collar and I put them back into the kennel, and then I try again. Okay. Because I absolutely want. Let's say you put Bessie in and then let her come out and you correct her there. It can set a foundation, but realistically speaking, she would have an issue when she's been in there all day, and then you're letting her out. So that's when it's the most effective. Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to think here. Question so far about that?
I don't have a question about that. I have a question about the crying chihuahua.
Okay.
So I went over with a towel, but as soon as I walk over by him, he stops crying.
Okay, so go and get your towel. You ever ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's go walk to the chihuahua.
Okay.
And it's just, can you show me? Can you? Okay, go ahead and just bop him.
Bop him?
Yeah. Go ahead, now let me see him again. Okay, now wait. Yeah, let's just keep it there. Keep it on him. Okay, now walk away. Did he give like? It sounded like a little like pig squeak.
He screams.
Yeah, it sounded like.
Yeah, he screams every time you do something that upsets him.
Okay, so right there, what happened? And by the way, your intensity was like a 1 to a 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're like, come on.
So now I don't care that it was a 1 to a 2.
Right.
Okay. You did the correction. I heard the sound, and then he walked away and then sat down on the other couch.
Yes.
Right. So what he gave you was an away motion and then a passive response of like settling.
Okay.
So don't look at it as a sit. Look at it as a relaxed state.
Okay.
So if someone comes over and you tell them, make yourself at home, relax, what do you think they're going to do?
They're going to go sit.
Yeah,
relax.
Sit down. So there's obedient sit, which is what we were talking about in the kennel. Sit, stay, so I can let you out. But then when you let her out, she's just this energy, right? And you're doing that correction so that she stops that forging and that intensity. And if she sits at the back of the kennel, it's not a sit, it's a relaxed state. Okay? Yes. So right now you said he's howling, but when I go over there, he stops howling. Okay?
Yeah. But
he's still in that mindset, even though he's not doing it.
Well, I see.
Yes.
Because he's training me that he's crying, and at least that's what it feels like to me, that when I get up to go over to him, that's when he stops.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm telling him when I go over there that he's going to stop crying because he's getting what he wants.
Right. Because, most people would, pet the dog and say, it's okay, calm down, whatever, or they'll pick him up and cradle him. And it's like a baby. Like, babies cry when they got a diaper that needs to be changed, that they're hungry, they're uncomfortable. They cry for reasons, right? So, same thing for the dog. He's howling for whatever reason. So, you went over there and said, cut the shit.
I did. Okay. And you know what? Now he's laying down on a blanket. He's not crying.
Yeah, because you disrupted the emotional state.
Right.
Okay? And did you say anything? No. So words, I know, I'm not against the word no. Okay?
Right.
I'm using the word no. But you have to empower it, and you would empower it using a bonker, a prong collar, a knee collar, or whatever. So it'd be no correction. Okay?
Right.
But the way a dog brain works is if you say no and then you correct them, then you always have to say no. So technically, they can do it until you say no.
Oh, okay. So if I use the bonker and say no, I still would have to say no?
Right. So,
okay.
He thinks he can howl until you say no.
Oh, okay.
So, because humans, I know if I don't run red lights and if I stay on the speed limit, underneath the speed limit that's posted on street signs,
right,
and I go the direction that streets are, east, west, north, whatever, I'm going on the right side of the street and stuff, I know I should not be stopped for anything.
Right.
Right? Because I'm following all the rules. Right. I know that. I don't need to be, I was told that, I've learned that, I know that. Dogs don't do that. He thinks I can howl until mom says no. Okay? And then when mom says no, I'm going to stop. And then let's say an hour goes by. And then, something changes in the environment. And then he's like, oh, I need mom now. It's a new context. He's going to start howling again. And then you have to say no. Right? Now, maybe he does stop howling with the no, but now you always have to say no. If I just correct him, because that's all you did, you walked over and you just corrected him and you walked away, he's going, man, if I howl, mom will come over here, but it's not what I normally get. Now I'm getting a correction. I don't like that. So I'm just not.
No, and he lets you know because he screams. That's right.
Yeah. And actually my Chihuahua does very similar. He is a drama king. Yeah. So
Oh, so is this one.
Yeah, he barks. He'll go, bah! Right?
Yeah.
When he's, yeah. So now that I think about it, he kind of does the same thing. But it doesn't deter me from correcting him.
It always has deterred us.
Yeah.
Because we just want to make him stop. We don't want him to do that.
Right, but that's how you get him to do that, is you correct him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? And now, be careful now because, like, let's say you correct them, and then another time you don't have your bonker, so then you go and you console him.
Yeah.
Now you're creating you're making it more difficult for yourself.
Okay.
Okay. So you always correct. You always correct what you don't want. Okay.
Okay.
That's why it's consistent. Government does not want citizens to run red lights, so we issue tickets when you run a red light, right?
Right.
You go above the speed limit, you get a ticket for going above the speed limit. You drink and
Right.
drive, you get a ticket, and then you get so many, you lose your license. Like it
Right.
is what it is, right?
Right.
So you have to see it the same way with your dogs. Size does not matter.
Right.
Now, earlier I mentioned you bonked him at a 1 to a 2. But if he shuts up and stops howling for the next rest of the day or for hours, then I go, then you're good at that intensity because it got you a very big response, right?
Right.
But let's say in 5 minutes he starts howling again, and you
Right.
bop him at 1 to 2. 5 minutes later he's howling again. You bop him. Now you're back to where you were.
Okay.
Okay. So then you're using an intensity that's appropriate to your dog and the behavior. Okay.
Yeah.
So like howling is annoying, but not the worst thing that a dog can do.
For sure.
Right? The worst thing, everybody always equates things to aggression.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody's like, oh, my dog's not that bad of a dog. Like they jump on people and they do this and they do that and they do this, but they don't bite people.
Right.
I'm like, well, I don't like that other stuff either. And I'm going to correct it just like I would correct anything else. I don't care if the dog's aggressive or not.
Yeah.
Because dogs don't think the way humans do. Okay, humans are
Right.
rational, we're logical, and we tend to make excuses for the animal, which
We
then
do.
makes us unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, that howling was driving me nuts.
You should have said so.
So I was just like, I'm gonna.
I didn't want to interrupt you because you were talking. I was like, I really want to go over and hit him, but I
No,
can't.
absolutely. That's what this is for.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
what this is for. So, like,
Okay.
let's say Bessie was doing something. You're like, Bessie's doing it. I'm like, let's go.
Right,
Because
okay,
I can't
okay.
physically be there, right? And
Right.
this way, like, now it happened in front of me, and I was able to
Yeah.
evaluate your correction.
Yes.
But then I also told you what you got in response. Like,
Okay.
I was like, he walked away from the situation. He sat
Okay.
down and gave you passive response, and then you looked and you said he's laying down now.
And he still is.
Yeah. So now you've just learned how that works.
Yeah.
Okay. Because people, the hardest part is people don't know what they're looking for, and that's actually what you're looking for. After a correction, you should see a shift in behavior.
That helps.
Okay. There should always be a shift in behavior now, and I tell my clients, if you don't get a change by on the first correction or by the third correction, I
Right.
stop. Okay?
Okay.
And I evaluate, what are we doing incorrectly? Okay? Because dogs learn very quickly. So it might be we're not intense enough.
Okay.
It might be we rush through the correction.
Okay.
It might be we're correcting for something that the dog doesn't really comprehend. So like, if you told Bessie to sit and she didn't sit, I wouldn't bonker.
Okay. Right.
Okay? Like that does not apply to obedience. This only applies to behavior. Okay?
Okay.
So
That helps. Mm-hmm.
let's say you come home and like all the dogs are jumping on you. Then I have a bunch of bonkers by the entrance. I walk into the home. The dogs charge me. I don't say anything. They start jumping. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Right?
Right.
Respect my space when I come in. Okay?
Okay.
And then they all scatter, and I put up the bonkers, and I walk through the house, and I ignore them. I get in my home clothes and stuff, and they're all looking at you like, holy crap, what was that about, right? Then I sit down, and I invite one over, right? And then all of a sudden, everybody comes over, so then I correct the ones that I didn't invite. I only wanted the one,
Okay.
right? I didn't invite you guys.
Right.
So it's like growing up, I had two brothers and a sister, right? So like if my mom was like, oh, and I was like, Mom, I finished my dinner. She's like, okay, you can have dessert now.
Right.
Right? And then my brother was like, well, I want dessert. I'm like, well, I didn't tell you could have dessert. You got to finish your food.
That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
So just because I was invited to do so didn't mean others were.
Right.
I go to my friend's house, and I've known him for more than half my life. Like I can look in his fridge for beer.
Right.
But someone who's there, who's just met him and only known him for a couple of months or whatever, can't look in his fridge for beer. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right. No, I do. I totally get that.
Yeah. So it's the same thing for the dogs, right?
Right.
Dogs don't think, but they get to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They don't care about that stuff. Okay? So like,
Right.
we're looking into getting a puppy for my facility to raise and stuff. and the puppy would live with us with my dogs and everything. But that puppy will not get the privileges that my dogs get.
Okay.
He will not sleep in the bed. Will not be allowed in the furniture. Will not be allowed to do a lot of things.
Okay.
Because they have to earn those privileges. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And this takes so dogs do see when you treat one different than the other, but they just don't. They're just not like spiteful about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Because if you're soft with one dog, but then you're trying to be harsh on another dog, they're like, you're not even real. Like, you're inconsistent because you baby this dog and then you're over here trying to discipline me, right? You have to be equal across the board. Your little tiny Chihuahua over there and a Rottweiler would be treated the same. Okay? I don't care how big, how small. I don't care anxious, nervous, fearful. I don't care if there was abuse in the past or no abuse. I don't care golden retriever, sweetest personality. I treat them all the same.
Right.
Okay? And like even in the human world, discrimination, we don't like it. Right? So it's the same thing amongst the dogs. I don't discriminate. I treat them all the same. Okay? It'd
be nice if we all did that.
Yeah, would be a lot more, lot easier to be in. So, but that's what makes life is everybody thinks differently. Everybody has their own approach to things, stuff like that. But for your dogs and for your the sanity of your household, consistency is key. Okay.
Yeah.
Questions so far about any of this stuff?
No, it really did help to know, though, because I was struggling with when I was trying to walk over and bonk him, but he stopped crying. So it helps to have you explain that he's still in that state of wanting to cry. So bonk him so that you stop that behavior, right?
Yes.
And so that it does kind of help me approach other situations, right?
Yes.
And figure out how to do that.
So ideally, we want to correct as the behavior is happening. Ideally, okay. However, because the howling one's a little bit different, because when you went over there, I can see his posture and I could see that he was still in that kind of like needy state.
Okay, that helps to see.
That's why your correction resonated. So this actually happened at my facility. We had a dog in the pen who was very anxious and whiny, and I walked in and I corrected him. And then I walked out. And something happened. I think he started to pace around or whatever. He wasn't whining, but he was pacing. And I went back in and I corrected him again. So my other trainer looked at me, and then she was just like, no, you know what I think it was? I think it was he whined. I corrected him. I left. I was working with another dog. He whined again. And by the time I got to him, like a minute to 2 minutes had passed. Okay? But he was still in an anxious state. And I corrected him. So for her, she was like, how could you correct him if he whined 2 minutes ago? And I said, because even though he wasn't whining anymore, mentally he was still anxious. And then after I did the second correction, he did what your Chihuahua did, and he laid down. Okay? So it's learning to recognize that. Like let's say a dog pees on the floor, and then you catch it 30 seconds after they pee on the floor, you're too late.
Right.
Because it's an action, it was done, there was no emotional state tied to it, or the dog is not in the emotional state, right? But an interesting thing is, like, let's say, what's the little one's name, the Chihuahua? Oliver. I keep wanting to say, was it Ren that was the little Chihuahua?
There's another one. There's one, we do have our Chihuahua named Ren.
Right, yeah, Ren and Stimpy. So, like, for me, I kept thinking Ren. So, like, let's say you go to correct him, right? And he runs away from you because he sees the bonker and he's like, oh, I know what's going to happen, right? Most people would stop. I don't. I pursue the dog. And very calmly, just slowly walking after him, and he's running around. He might run around the table and stuff like that. He might run under the table, right? Then I go under the table and I pull the chairs aside. And maybe he tries to run out the table. Or maybe he sits there. And you're going to see him there. He's going to be shaking. He's going to be, like, tucking his head because he's like, I know it's going to happen, right? People tend not to correct because they go, the dog already knows. I go, no, you correct, okay? Because you're teaching him you cannot run from this, right? Because otherwise he'll learn, oh, I can howl, then run away, and then hide and give the little pouty face, and I won't get corrected.
Right.
Okay? And I had to do this once to a Samoyed who was boarding with me when I used to board out of my home. And one night, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what happened, but I heard him running back and forth my home, and I heard trickling. And I was like, is he peeing? Sure enough, he was running across my house in a panic, and he was peeing. Okay?
Oh my God.
So I open the front door, and he runs out, right? So I mop up the mess or whatever.
Right.
And then I open the door, and I go, Sam, and he's at the base of my stairs, and he's looking at me. And I'm like, oh. And this was the middle of winter, by the way. Like, it's snowing. And he's, like, shaking his tail, and then he runs. And I'm like, oh. So I literally go out in boxers and Uggs, and I'm in my yard, okay? And I'm pursuing him for like 10, 15 minutes. He's just running laps, right? And finally he stops. And I go up to him, and he puts his butt down. He's like, oh, man, you're not playing this game with me. And then he tucks his head, and I corrected him.
Okay.
I did the Cesar Millan correction. And he yipped the Cesar Millan. He uses his hand like this.
Oh, okay.
And I correct him, and he yips, and he runs straight into my house. Okay? Then, like 2 days later, we were in the yard, and I'm calling all the dogs in, and he went like that play bow.
Oh, okay.
Right? And I started walking towards him in the same manner that I did the night that he was, playing games. And he went from playful to like, uh-oh, and tucked his head.
Where he's like, oh, man, he's coming over.
Yes, and I corrected him again. And then he ran the house.
Okay.
So, for 10 to 15 minutes, I was pursuing him. Okay, so that happened 10 to 15 minutes after the behavior. But it resonated because I kept him within the mindset. Because I kept pursuing him. Now, had I stopped, went inside to put on some clothes, and then went outside, too late. Okay. He's not going to go back to it.
He must have been freezing.
It actually wasn't that cold. Like, you ever had where it's like snow, but it's cold, but it's not like freezing cold. Like, that's what it was. Yeah. So, otherwise, I would have like, screw this. But the reason, like, because dogs, they're all about consistency, and the moment it happens is when you want to correct it. So that was the first time he ever did that. So had I ignored that, the next time I would have tried to have to approach him, it would have been longer.
Yeah.
Because he would have learned off the bat, like, oh, you gave up.
I like hearing you say that you kept him in that state, so it gave you the opportunity to correct him.
Yes.
So if I have moments when, Oliver is crying like that, if I need him to be in that state so that I have the opportunity to go and say, knock it off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And if he runs away, then you just follow him. Don't chase him. Just follow him.
He won't run.
Okay.
He won't run.
The others might.
Oh, yeah. The others probably would.
Yeah.
Bessie would be like, I'm getting the hell out of here.
Now, what you might find, like, let's say, let's go with, like, the other one's Abby, right? The dachshund.
Yep.
So, like, let's say, for example, Abby. You correct her, and you correct her firmly with the bonker and stuff, and then you start to know, like, then she runs away now. And then you pursue her. And you might see that one day she turns around during the pursuit and starts growling at you, and, like, even showing teeth. Okay? People go, oh, my God, you're making the dog aggressive. I'm like, no. The dog's not being aggressive. The dog's warning you. Right? Because in their world, respect isn't given, it's earned. Okay? In the human world, you can teach a child, respect your elders, respect authority, so on and so forth. Right? And they naturally apply it. Dogs don't do that. Right? So if dogs have gone like years or months or whatever without any formal discipline,
right,
and then you decide, I'm tired of your shit, I'm going to discipline you today, they may confront you on it. Okay. Right? Because would you just, like, if something that's very meaningful to you, right, and someone tries to take it, are you, just going to give it up? Right? Some people do, right? Some people go like, it's not worth it, I'm going to give it up. But if someone tried to take something from me that was very sentimental or like meaningful, or I'm like, or like, let's say a child, right? Like, you're gonna fight. Like this is not gonna go over well. Like, you're gonna give everything you have, right?
Yes.
That's dog, but dog will do that for anything. Okay. Because people, because since we're logical, like, if someone's like, hey, give me your wallet, and they have a gun on me, then I'm like, here's my wallet, right?
Yeah.
But if it's like, hey, give me your kid, I'm like, that instinct of I have to protect my child.
Yes.
So you're willing to, in that situation, a person will most likely be willing to confront that and
Right.
put themselves in that type of danger, right? For dogs, like, they could fight over, a freaking rubber band and fight to the death over it,
We've had fights over sticks.
Yeah, that's dogs, okay?
Right.
So if you're trying to correct her, and then, I'm not saying that it's going to happen, just to prepare you, is if you see a response like that, right?
Right.
And I suggest you do this outside of the context, is for me, did he howl?
Abby.
Oh, okay.
She's in a pen that we have in the family room. It's Ben's home. And she is afraid to jump over the, 6-inch entrance to the pen. And so she wants me to let her out.
Okay. Bonker.
Yeah.
Now what does she do?
She walked away and is going to go lay down again.
Okay. Now you go and have a seat. There you go. Yep. So what you did there was simply, I know she wants to come out, right? But we're really putting things on your terms.
She jumped out all on her own.
There you
Imagine
go.
that.
Then do you care?
Now she's jumping. What?
Is she jumping on you?
Yeah.
Bonker.
Okay. She walked away. I chased her, but it's
no,
too
you're
late.
fine. No, that would have to happen within that moment. Okay?
Oh, okay.
But the reason why I'm having you do that now is bigger problems are the culmination of smaller problems.
Right.
Okay. So I think we had spoke about this during the consult, but where I said for Bessie, I'm like, yes, we have to address Bessie, but then there's all this other stuff around Bessie that needs to be addressed as well.
Yes.
Right? To help her settle. So it's not like she's stuck in this, everything's chaos and she's just like, I have to behave myself, right?
Yes.
It's across the board.
Right.
Okay. So I don't, if it's I don't care that, Abby jumps out the pen. I just don't want her barking at me to pick her up because I know she knows how to jump out the pen.
Right.
Then you correct the barking, right?
Right.
And then it's like, hey, if you want to come out, I know you can, but I'm not going to carry you out now. So stop asking, stop commanding me to, right? Then she does it.
Yeah.
Right? Now she goes to jump on you. The reason why I said for you to bonk her there was because you're just trying to put as much rules in place as possible. Okay?
Yeah.
I don't care that a dog jumps on you, but because you have so many dogs, I'm trying to, it's like boot camp and taking everything that I can and correcting it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And we can always bring things back. We can always, invite them to jump on us and stuff like that. But I'm going, you can't do this anymore, and you can't do this anymore, and you can't do that anymore. Is you start to see everything start to kind of calm down because everybody's getting rules for a ton of different things.
Right.
So it's not a free-for-all anymore.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and that was one of the things I was looking forward to with the Zoom calls was because I can learn how to implement different techniques to affect the overall environment. Because once I bonked Oliver and got him to chill out, everything's good. Everyone went and settled themselves down. Ben's sleeping on a bed. Bessie's in the pen. Everyone's just chill. So it helps because then I can just focus on you. So
your homework for this week is really employ the bonker. Your intensity for the things that you just corrected was okay, because it stopped the howling.
Right.
And then I just keep tabs on how long does it stop the howling for.
Right.
Okay. For Abby, she was barking at you to let her out, right? And then you bopped her or whatever. And then you start to see hey, Abby's not barking at me anymore. She's just hopping out on her own.
Right.
Great. That's another thing that we've just removed off the list of annoying things that dogs do, right? Because you got one dog howling and you got one dog barking to let them out and you got a dog crying in the kennel. That's how most dog daycare facilities are, right? It's just constant whining or barking. Not here. Right. Not in my place. We had clients come to my facility because it was raining, and they're like, "Man, it's so quiet in here," and it was actually a couple of dogs whining, and I said, I was like, we don't even allow that. But I was working with them, and my other handler was out taking the dog out to go potty, or whatever. So, but when he came in, I was like, correct those dogs.
Right.
It's silence. So, and it's simple. It's not obedience. It's just correct what you don't want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So your homework for this week, really employ the bonker. I'm going to send you those videos. Okay. You can use either approach for Bessie. If you're going to leave for a short period and come back, you can try the e-collar approach. There's no
Okay.
words there. You're just correcting what you don't want, right? If she forges out the kennel, what you can also do is, so if you tap her to back her up, open it, she doesn't charge, put a leash on her. When you invite her out, if she tries to book it out, you start tapping, step on the leash, right? Lead her as you're tapping back in the kennel. Wait a moment. Invite her out again, and I want her to come out calmly.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So you're tapping when she charges out because you're correcting the way she charged out. Okay? But you wouldn't say anything. You're just tapping her and you're leading her back in with the leash. She goes back in. I wait a moment. Okay, break. Invite her out. She comes out calmly. Close the gate. You can remove the leash now because we're not getting that outburst of energy. Because that keeps that problem in place. Okay? You're just trying to get her to be calm with the entry, with the exit, and with her being within the kennel itself.
Gotcha.
When you don't have the collar on her, you can use the gate. So you have to time it. You have to open it very slowly. And the moment you see your head trying to go through, catch it. So you catch her, and it's firm. It's like a pop. It's like a boom. And you'll see it go, and she'll like jump back. Then I wait a moment. Close it, slowly open. Close it, slowly open. Slowly invite out. You know, and then close it. Okay. So you have the bonker, you have the gate correction, and you have the e-collar for Bessie. I suggest for you and Will to make a list of annoying things the dogs do. Okay. Howling, jumping, barking, nipping, chewing, staring, whatever. Okay. And as long as it's something that can be stopped. Okay. Not something that needs to be taught, like sit or lay down. Okay. You can bonk it. Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then to shoot me an email if anything pops up, and then I'll get you those videos so you and Will can watch them, and they'll give you an idea of how to bonk with intensity.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay?
That'll help.
Anything else?
No, I was going to say Maria is looking. We have a wedding this next week, so we'll be out of town in Michigan, and then the following week, hopefully, we'll have another video or another Zoom session.
No worries. With the Zooms, it's easier because it's just Zoom. So okay, awesome, good job. We'll see you in a couple weeks then.
Okay, thank you, Jesse.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, Enrique. I just received a call from, I believe, Tanya in reference to my an audit that I recently had.
And the name on the policy?
The business name is Canine Perspective.